See what's next for him. What's next for us here on Futbol Americas is a check-in on today's action. We'll start with Brazil and South Korea. Went down at Stadium 974. This one, Herc, over before it began, you might say.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I may have streamed it in some sort of unsavory way on my walk over here, and I was watching, and it was 2-0, and they were balling. Joga Bonito is back. Richarlison, which we could easily say are probably two of the goals of the tournament, top two goals for my money off of his name. Neymar, any fitness doubts you may have had? They're gone. They gone.
So Vini Jr. scored the first in the 7th minute. The aforementioned Neymar scoring from the penalty spot in the 13th. Richarlison finishing off a golazo right before the half-hour mark. And Lucas Paquetá then scoring in the 35th minute as Brazil went up 4-0. Park, the number 8 for Korea, scoring a late goal, 76th minute, as that game ends 4-1. Yesterday, and I got to see him live, I said, boy, France is the best I've seen yet. Did Brazil surpass them for you tonight?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So Chiche is so good at the way he organizes his team. Everybody sees this offensive flair. They see Neymar, they see Vini Jr., they see Rafinha. You know, they see any player that can come off the bench. And you're thinking, Joga Bonito, offensive flair. You're thinking that this is what they do. They're going to overwhelm you offensively, but they're so good in the back. They are so good in the center of the midfield, Casemiro. The way they defend, it's a defend-first mentality for Brazil. And teams like that go far in World Cups, go far in tournament settings. I don't even think they've scratched the surface.
How much of this was down to the competition?
That's a lot.
I think if we talk about the teams that did advance to the round of 16, you would consider South Korea not just one of the weaker sides, but also one of the teams that has shown us the least to get through.
And probably fortunate to be in the second round because of the way they went on.
Them and Poland feels very similar.
Well, no, yes, but Poland, yes, very similar, but I think South Korea has shown me a lot more than Poland. What I'm telling you is their fortunes changed in a matter of minutes. I mean, it's literally they're playing against a Portuguese team that had nothing to play for. They were already into the second round. It's a late set piece, literally last play of the game type deal. It's Sung versus 8 Portuguese players, slips the ball, megs one player, great through ball, goal, and everything changes. It's Uruguay out, right?
Yep.
It's South Korea in. And it's a team that's already depleted, a team that's already at half gas, that maybe felt fortunate enough to be there against one of the tournament favorites, and easily, for my money, the best team in the world.
So in this game, we see Neymar's return. He missed the second and third game after coming off injured in the first. Was he the difference? Are you putting down the fact that we saw Brazil go from group phase Brazil to knockout round Brazil just down to Neymar?
No. Listen, Brazil's group wasn't easy.
Right.
You talk about France, and you didn't say, hey, what about their opponents? With France, right? I was the one that mentioned
it. Well, I'm speaking of the opponents. I'm specifically talking about South Korea today.
No, fair. But what I'm talking about when you talk favorites is like nobody's really brought up the fact that France has played Australia, right? France has played a very poor
Denmark team,
and then Tunisia. So, and then in the second round, Poland.
Yep.
You have to respect Brazil. You have to respect them for their history. You have to respect them for the way they went through World Cup qualifiers. You have to respect them for that ridiculous amount of games they have undefeated with Casemiro in that lineup. They're a very good team, very well-coached team, organized, and they've got world-class players. Yesterday, you and I had the discussion about can the U.S. ever win a World Cup, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Name me a team that's won a World Cup without world-class players.
I can't.
You can't. Yeah. And Brazil they check off every single box you can think of why they should win a World Cup.
So I was at their first game against Serbia.
We were there together.
Yes. It feels like 3 months ago. I don't even remember who was there. And Neymar didn't shine in that game.
He was bad.
You would go that. So to me, it's like he's definitely not the reason that they peaked today. Yeah. Let's say, and I'm not kind of just speculating out of turn here, I feel like his health is always an issue, right?
It's always in question.
One, I think it's fair to say he's a bit fragile. He's also targeted a lot, right? He draws a lot of fouls. If for some reason he were to miss a critical game, would you bank on Brazil to do it without him?
I think it depends who they're playing.
Of course.
But I think I'd still be.
But from now on, it's going to be a tough matchup, right?
Sure. Croatia's not going to be an easy team. They've proven.
And then it would be potentially Argentina
or
Netherlands.
It would be potentially Argentina, which would be a grudge match for them. That'd be a very difficult game, very physical game also. Mauricio Amai gave us a stat yesterday on ESPN Deportes. Neymar has missed over 200 days with ankle issues throughout his career. That's an ankle issue he's got currently right now. I'm sure within those 200 days, Brazil has needed to fare without him. I'm fairly confident because of their approach and the way they play that they can get by without him. But Neymar, when he's running at an optimal level, is easily, for my money, one of the best players in the world. Maybe the best player in this tournament. I know Kylian Mbappe, everybody's high on him right now, and I love him as well. But Neymar is a different level of player than we're used to seeing.
All right, let's get to the earlier game from today. Japan against Croatia in the round of 16. This one going down at Al Janoub Stadium. Not nearly as exciting, I think it's safe to say, at least overall. First half was pretty good as Brazil's game against South Korea. Daisen Maeda opened the scoring for Japan in the 43rd minute. Ivan Perisic leveling in the 55th. It went to penalties, and from there, Dominik Livakovic, the 27-year-old, writing himself into Croatian footballing folklore as Croatia takes the penalty shootout 3-1, advancing to the quarterfinals. So Croatia advance, but they don't win. Are you buying them as a threat to advance deeper in this tournament, a la 2018 when they reached the final?
You know, I thought they would be physically overmatched already versus a pair of teams. I thought Canada would physically overmatch them. Was not the case. Canada had their own issues of being physically overmatched versus Croatia. I thought Japan would overwhelm them with that press. And early on in this game, they were doing that. Livakovic comes up big in the penalty kicks. It's 120 minutes more for this team. I think it's going to be very difficult against a Brazil team that was at half gas come the second half of this game, who also had the luxury of resting players versus Cameroon. They made 9 changes versus Cameroon. They made changes in the second half of this game. Dani Alves comes on again. This is a Brazilian team that's not only full of confidence, but also well-rested versus a very depleted Croatian team that had a lot of fight in them. And that fight took a lot of that tank. They did a lot more than I thought they would do against Japan, to be quite honest. And they really overperformed how I thought they would do in this group phase. But I can't see them weathering that Brazilian storm.
I agree with you. I think they're good, very good, because they get past the teams they're supposed to get past, you might say. But when they hit that elite level, and I think you could say they came out of the weaker side of the bracket in 2018. Sure. If we go back to the Euros, when they had to go up against Spain, you know, we saw them kind of hit their level. And then I think, as you point out, what's coming next is a level that they have not seen. And I think that's where they probably
Modric, arguably the most important player, is 37 years old. And minute 98, he comes out. So you have to wonder where they're at physically. And I just don't think that if it's a matchup versus Brazil, they have physically what it takes.